Okay, and then we're going to subtract the j of x, which is the 3x squared minus 4x minus 3. Okay, the first thing we need to do is distribute the negative. Since we're subtracting, we can just distribute a negative, make our life a little bit easier so we don't get confused. So negative 1 times 3x squared is negative 3x squared. Negative 1 times negative 4 makes that a positive 4x. And then negative 1 times negative 3 makes that a positive 3. Then the next thing we need to do is combine like terms. Can someone raise their hand and remind me what my like terms are?
It's the ones with like the same variable and exponent.
Very good. They need to have two things in common, the same variable and the same exponent. So in this case, the 4x cubed, on the other polynomial, there is not an x cubed. So we just write it down, the 4x cubed. Then we go to the next biggest exponent, which is the negative x squared. We go to our second polynomial, and we have a negative 3x squared. They are the same sign, so I'm going to add. This is like a 1 in front. So we have 1 and 3 here. So that's negative 4x squares. Make sure you don't add the exponents at all, because we're just counting how many I have. The next term is the negative 3x. And over here we have an x as well. So negative 3 and positive 4, they are opposite signs. So I'm going to subtract and get a positive 1x, or just x. The final like term I have is the 5 and the 3. 5 and 3, they're the same sign. So I'm going to add them and get 8 plus 8. And that is my new function after I add those two other functions. And that is in standard form because it goes from the biggest exponent to no exponent. Any questions over that? Yes.
X multiplied by x is x power of 2.
Yes.
And what happens if there's an say that there's like x by itself with the power of 2 with another x, would you multiply it and put 3, or would you just
X cubed.
Yeah, x cubed.
You can multiply unlike terms. You cannot add and subtract unlike terms. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then we need to worry about the degree. Does anyone remember what the degree of this polynomial would be? What? The biggest exponent, what is that? 3. So my biggest exponent is 3, so that's the degree. And then you count the number of terms. This is 1 term, this is 2 terms, this is 3 terms, that's 4. So there are 4 terms. Any questions over that? We're all good? Okay, next one. Now we have h of x plus j of x. So here's my h of x. We have the 2x squared plus 3x minus 4. And then the j of x was plus the 3x squared minus 4x minus 3. Now this one we're adding, so we don't need to distribute a negative. There's no negative there. So we're just going to combine like terms. So we have the 2x squared and the 3x squared. So, and they're the same sign, so I'm going to add. 2 and 3 is 5x squared. Then I have the 3 and the negative 4. They're opposite signs, so I'm going to subtract and get negative 1x. Or just negative x. And then finally, I'm going to have the negative 4 and the negative 3. They're the same sign, so I'm going to add and get negative 7. And that's my standard form because it goes from the biggest exponent to the number, just the coefficient. Josh, what's the degree there? 2. And Sebastian, how many terms do I have? I have 3 terms. Very good. Okay. How are we doing? Pretty easy, right? Okay, I want you guys to do C and D in your pairs. So our h of x should have been that's interesting. Whew. It's very interesting right now. Should have been 2x squared h of x plus 3x minus 4 minus the m of x, which was x to the 4th minus x squared plus 6. Okay, you first need to distribute that negative and get negative x to the 4th minus x squared. Oh, sorry, a negative times a negative makes a positive x squared. And then a negative times a positive is a negative 6. Then we combine our like terms. The 2x squared and the x squared, this is like a 1 in front, gives me 3x squares. The 3x, and there isn't one over here, so I'm just going to write down the 3x. Then the negative 4 and the negative 6 is negative 10. And then don't forget about that negative x to the 4th. Okay, so that's it in standard form. Elizabeth, what's the degree? Very good. And Bianca, how many terms do I have? 4. The degree is 4. And the number of terms is 4. Any questions over that? Okay, let's check the next one. Okay, Aaron, what did you guys get for?
We got negative 4x squared 3 plus 4x. So we have 2.
Okay, so negative 4x to the third.
Yeah, to the third.
Mm-hmm.
Plus 4x to the second.
Mm-hmm.
And then negative x minus 8.
Do we agree, class? Is that a yes or a no? Yes? Okay. Let me see if I agree. I agree. Okay. And then, hey, but what's the degree? Good. And Alyssa? What's the number of terms? 4. Okay. Any questions over that? Okay, that's how we're adding and subtracting our functions. Now we're going to multiply them on the back or on your front. So notice the notation, it's m of x, that little dot is the times g of x. So let's make sure we know that we are multiplying. So I have my m of x, which is over here. There are 3 terms. So when I multiply, remember we draw the boxes. And I know that the one of them has the 3 terms. So I have x to the 4th minus x squared, and then plus the 6th. And then my g of x is right here. The negative 2x and the negative 5. Okay, there's lots of negatives going on here, so make sure you're paying attention and don't have a negative when you need a positive or have a positive when you need a negative. So we're going to multiply. The 4x times the negative 2 is negative 2, and x to the 4th, and x is x to the 5th. Then the negative x squared times a negative 2 is negative times a negative makes that positive 2, and x squared times x is x cubed. Then we have the 6 times the negative 2. Positive times a negative is a negative 12, and then just an x. Then we have x to the 4th times negative 5 is negative 5, x to the 4th. Then the negative x times a negative 5 makes that positive 5, and then x squared. And then the negative 5 and the 6 is a negative 30. Any questions over how I got that? Okay, now we're just going to combine like terms we have. I have the negative 2x to the 5th. Is there any x cubes with it? No, so we just add that x. Oh, what should come next? X to the 4th to be in standard form. So negative 5x to the 4th is next. Then the cubed. Then I have an x squared, so that comes next. Plus the 5x squared. Then I have the minus 12x. And finally, the minus 30. And there were no like terms, so I didn't have to combine anything. So that was my wonderful polynomial. That's it in standard form. Class, what's the degree? 5. And then how many terms do I have? 6. Very good. Any questions over that? We're all good? Okay, next one. Okay, how about you guys multiply that? Do F for me in your pairs. Here, okay, when we multiply, the 3 times the negative 2 is negative 6x, and then x times x gives me this x squared. Then we have the 1 times the negative 2 is negative 2x. And then we have the 3x times the negative 5 is negative 15x's. And the 1 times the negative 5 is a negative 5. Okay, then we can just combine any like terms we have. The negative 6x squared is all by itself. We do have a negative 2 and a negative 15x. They're both x's. They're the same sign, so I'm going to add and get negative 17x. And then minus the 5. So that's my polynomial in standard form. What's the degree, class? What's the degree? 2, good. And how many terms? 3. Okay, the next one is I take f of x and I square it. So when I draw my box, I write it out twice. So f of x was that 3x plus 1. So I'm going to write the 3x plus 1 and the 3x plus 1. Okay, let's multiply. So the 3x times the 3x is the 9x squared. The 1 times the 3x is 3x. The 3 times the 1 is 3x. And the 1 times the 1 is 1. So then I just have the 9x squared. I do have some like terms, the 3x and the 3x, they are the same sign, so I'm going to add them and get positive 6x. Then I just have plus the 1. And that's my new function now. Any questions over that? Okay, that's it in standard form. It too has a degree of 2, and its number of terms is 3. Any questions over that? Okay, you guys do the next one. Do H in your pairs. We should have gotten in our little box 9x squared, because this is 3x minus 1, and this is 3x plus 1. 3x, and this would be negative 3x. This would be a positive 3x, and this would be a negative 1. These two middle ones will cancel each other out. So I should have 9x squared, and then just minus 1. Any questions? So I have a degree that's 2, and number of terms is also 2. Any questions over that? Okay, you guys can work on the homework for a few minutes, and then we'll go into our next set of notes.